The Fable games are due to return from an over decade-long hibernation, so it's time to look back at the mainline trilogy. Fable is a series of third-person action RPGs where you play a hero from the land of Albion. These titles were ambitious, with them trying to be equal parts RPG and The Sims. The trilogy received favorable reviews, but after the third, nothing much came afterwards. Some spin-offs, a remaster, and a few cancelled games, but no big return has been released yet. The first Fable on the original Xbox was one of my earliest role-playing experiences, and the second title was a favorite of mine during the 360 era. I hold a degree of nostalgia for this series, but I haven't actually played any of them in several years, so join me on this journey as I go through all these games and break down how they are designed, from combat to its life simulation and more. And stay with me as I determine what aspects the new game should use, along with what ideas should be forgotten, like Fable Legends. Before I continue, I did a collab with my friend Zeal over on his channel, link in the description. Please check it out after this. Tell him I sent you. The Fable games were sold as a brand new kind of RPG, where the world reacts to your choices. You can become anyone and do anything. The world is there for you to interact and play with. But in reality, they have three basic pillars in their design. Story, where you decide on your morality, the ultimate hero, or the biggest villain. Gameplay, which is third person with a hub-based world. Combat utilizes a mix of melee, ranged, and magic. Simulation, with your character having relationships with each member of a town, along with the ability to get married and have kids. The Fable games are designed equivalently to other open world games where the story takes a back seat while the player is able to do as they please. This does provide more freedom, but a couple of drawbacks. One is that the story feels less urgent when you can chop wood for several hours instead of progressing. Two is that it requires a lot of side content, or the freedom isn't really worthwhile. There are a few solid side quests, but outside of that are basic minigames to make money, and not much else. Exploration isn't particularly fun or interesting. There's no jumping, barely any climbing, and the worst part is, there's not much worthwhile to find. Most of the time you get money, potions, or gift items. There are a few occasions when you get something like a weapon, but it's way too uncommon. I appreciate 2 and 3 having dogs that help you find treasure, and just exist because I love dogs.
The dog is good.
I have a dog. I love my dog loves me. Virtual Dog is great and makes the game better, but it doesn't fix the issues with exploration, but it does mean 2 and 3 are better because they have a dog. That quick overview describes essentially the full depth that these pillars have on offer. The first two have a similar structure. You begin the game with a basic tutorial, where you are a child and you do a few tasks while learning about the morality system and basics of combat. After you do some tasks, something absolutely fucked happens, which kicks off the main story. In Fable 2, you get yeeted out of a window and fall like 100 feet. After the traumatic opening, you train in the ways of being a hero, and yada 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 until the end. I didn't find the story very compelling in any of these titles. Fable 2 is essentially Mass Effect 2, which you gather in a team, but there are only 3 people to recruit and the game ends shortly after the third, and you don't have many interactions with them. Fable 3 has some alright moments, but are too few and far between. Most main and side quests are pretty much reasons to fight enemies, sometimes with a moral dilemma attached, which leads us into morality. It's a simple versus I never play as evil characters, and I don't see much of a reason to be evil. Know that is my bias going into this section. Things that award evil points are doing deeds like eating baby chicks, murder, theft, being a jerk to your dog, lying, certain choices, etc. Being evil for the sake of evil isn't a moral dilemma. It's just being an asshole. There are a few times in the series where doing the right thing is actually difficult. Here's where I'll put my spoiler warning for all games. Fable 2 has a section on the Spire a fortress where you are a guard and a slave. You are forced to do as you are told or face severe consequences. When you are here, acting with kindness will result in losing experience. That is the main instance I could think of in the second game, as the end choice is really easy. Do you want to revive your dog? Of course I do, so I picked that one. At the start of Fable 3, the right thing to do is sacrifice your childhood love so that innocent people do not get killed. Doing the right thing isn't always easy, so I appreciate these choices for being more nuanced. It still sucks that this method of morality means there are no shades of gray. This is something that plagues the end of Fable 3. There should be more choices than doing something nice and lose money, or something evil to get money. There's sometimes a third option to maintain money, but it's not enough. If a world-ending threat is coming, why the fuck do people even care about money? Just prepare for the fight. Money is made up. Have decisions based on who gets the most help and nuance difficult decisions as a king. I like being morally good as it helps in other ways than being able to sleep at night, such as getting discounts from stores and on property. So unless there's great benefits to being evil, besides maybe money, which you can still get while being good, I don't see the reason for going in an evil route. The game could have added mechanics where your morality affects your combat options, maybe restricting the strongest magic or having certain types of magic only be accessible after you reach a moral stand-in. That would give players a more interesting decision in deciding their morality. It is possible that this simple binary system might be intended. The devs maybe didn't want to have difficult moral dilemmas, which if that's their goal, alright, but maybe have that be more engaging in a way that connects to the overall experience. As it is now, morality only plays a role in how others see you. This can extend to marriage and sexual relations. The issue is that the townsfolk don't feel like people, they feel artificial. And I understand everything in the game is artificial, and so are the romance options, but at least the good ones make you feel like this is a character and a person you get to know on some deeper level, so the romance has a satisfying payoff. You don't talk with people in Fable, you emote at them. In Fable 1 and 2, you pose and have everyone love you. In Fable 3, they try to make it more intimate, with you needing to interact with people directly and do quests, but it's boring and uneventful when you do. Almost no one feels unique. They all like the same things and react the same way. In other games you get to know the characters as people and you'll need to respond accordingly to have them like you more. In Mass Effect they do give you quests, but you get to talk with them and decide who you want to romance because you like their personality or their values, or you just find them so fucking hot. Just holy shit, god damn, look at those titties! In Fable you don't get that, but you can build an empire of money where you own everything, so that's cool I guess. The word I would use to describe the combat is shallow, which is a shame since you do so much of it. It is functional, and I think the mixture of options is an interesting concept. As it is now, every option has a few basic attacks. Melee is just one combo and a charge attack. Same with ranged. Magic is either directed at one person or is an area of effect that can be charged to increase its strength. Combat kind of boils down to which of 3 buttons do you want to press and for how long. I didn't find myself acting strategically or with intention when I know whatever I do will result in victory. There are no fun combinations of magic, melee, or range to learn. They do allow you to combine 2 magic types in the 3rd game, which is a neat first step, but I wish they didn't stop the combat enhancements there. My approach to combat was use the hardest hidden weapon so I'm done with it faster, or use a weapon I need for an achievement. Battles could have been more interesting with improved enemy variety, but most adversaries are humanoids that utilize 1 or 2 of the same combat options as you. The enemies aren't interesting because most act in similar ways, outside of the beasts and insects. They aren't challenging because you can't die, so the penalty for losing all HP is a little loss of XP and a scar. XP you'll likely get back during the same battle. Therefore, combat doesn't excite in a mechanical way, but it's the thing you're likely doing for most of your playthrough. The other side of combat is upgrading. In the first two you get specialized orbs depending on what you use to kill foes. The different orbs you could then invest into new magic or improving your damage or health. What was dumb is that you had to stand around with your thumb up your ass and absorb the orbs after every fight, and no, the thumb is not optional. Fable 3 got rid of this, and instead of specialized orbs you have only one basic experience to use on anything. The specialized orbs remind me of how Elder Scrolls games handles its skills, but unlike those titles, Fable never built upon this system to make more interesting role-playing options, and instead discarded this idea entirely. The problem I have with Fable's design is that none of its aspects connect to each other in interesting ways. Morality and the simulation side kinda connect, but almost nothing affects the combat. The simulation side has so many weird aspects to it. In Fable 2 it seems like you need to read a specific book to initiate sex, even with your wife. Also make sure to wrap it up or you could have a kid. It happened to a friend of mine, she just turned 3. Back to Fable, you can raise a family, but like all the simulation stuff, it's for its own sake. The setup for these games is intriguing, but never comes together in a meaningful way, and none of the aspects has the depth to make these games interesting across multiple playthroughs, or sometimes even one. Either due to budget, technology, or time, this series never reached heights that its ambitions desired. For the new title, I hope they keep these pillars of Fable's design, but add significantly more depth. The setup makes for a unique concept with nothing feeling quite like it. Since Fable 3 release, we have gone from Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 to Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, so a lot of games have been released since we last visited Albion. Therefore, there's a lot to take inspiration from. Current RPGs like Final Fantasy XVI are starting to have combat that plays close to action games like Devil May Cry. So I hope the devs step up the combat significantly. The 3 main types of attacks you have could make for some interesting combinations and synergy between them. Each weapon type can have pros or cons when combined with others to have a combat system with a bit of depth. Something I hope they do keep is its unique humor.
Chicken chaser.
Hey.
What? Hey.
Being called a chicken chaser is amusing, and the thing that will keep Fable feeling like its own thing versus another RPG is its humor. I want to be able to punch chickens in 4K 120 FPS. That is literally the dream. Most of the aspects here shouldn't be kept as they should be reevaluated, such as exploration. I don't think Bethesda should be looked towards a lot when it comes to good game design, but one thing they are usually great at is exploration, and finding interesting items is something Fable lacks. One pillar I'm not sure about is the simulation. It is the most unique one, but one I'm not invested in as much. So I have no fucking clue what to do with it. Leave what you want to see in the comments below, please. As hard as I went in on these games, I did have fun overall. I still think these games are worth experiencing since there's little like it. The ideas are always compelling, even when the execution isn't. The new game will hopefully have learned lessons from its past and it turns out great. Whenever that happens, might be in 2 years or 20, who knows. One interesting thing I discovered on this revisit is that I now think Fable 3 is the best of the series. Combat and visuals are improved over the previous games. Also, the improved cinematics go a long way to making for a more interesting experience. I was more invested in the journey of this chicken than I was in the stories of some AAA games. This retrospective allowed me to revisit and rethink one of the series I love, and even though I found a lot to criticize, I found this to be a worthwhile exercise. I hope this was interesting for all of you to watch. My next videos will be on much shorter games, because this took way longer than I expected. I'm never signing up to do something like this again. Please like, share, and subscribe, and send this to Playground Games so they know what they should do. Have a great day, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.